If you look back at all of last season's doom and gloom, I don't think anything was more impactful to the team than losing McCaffrey those first 2 months. I mean, there was so much off-field drama, and thank goodness Ricky Pearsall survived a bullet. Charvarius Ward had personal tragedy. There were injuries with Aiyuk, Trent Williams later in the season. But losing McCaffrey, I think, really set the tone on what a terrible year it was. Whether Brandon Aiyuk's going to be ready week 1, and I would say the reasonable expectations is they put him on PUP and save him, don't let him play for a month. But you know what? I think I really want to see how he's coming along, because I wouldn't rule him out being ready to go week 1.
What'd you say, 26th year covering the NFL and the 49ers?
Correct. This will be my first year covering a Super Bowl champion from the 49ers. Oh, no, that was last. No, I haven't done that yet. I've covered many Super Bowls, but not one involving a 49er victory.
I did see that graphic. My buddy who's an Eagles fan sent me that graphic that was going around the other day of like most playoff, it's like most playoff wins in the last 15 years or something. And every team on the chart has at least one Lombardi except the 49ers.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, it would be a lot worse if you never made it to the show and you were just perennial dormant and you're just recycling quarterback after quarterback, not even good quarterbacks. So, I mean, the Niners know how to keep it interesting, always, even this year. I mean, 2 months ago, everybody was saying they were a disaster. Everybody had left, and now you're like, schedule looks pretty good. They got Kittle, Warner, and Purdy signed. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Super Bowl again. There you go.
So I know you're being a little tongue-in-cheek, but it does sound like you're optimistic about this group. I am too. I mean, just the schedule alone, I think, eases some of the concerns. And there are plenty of concerns, but, what's your general outlook?
I think there was a lot of misdirection back in March where everybody thought that the team was going to go through just a major reboot this year. And I think they are defensively and on special teams, but I think you can do that in today's NFL if you get a good, fast, young defensive front, which they're trying to do, because they have enough offensive weapons to score points again. I mean, they haven't changed much offensively other than you changed out Aaron Banks at left guard for somebody to be named later. You don't have to force the ball to Deebo Samuel anymore after his basically 2-3 year decline. You can infuse some young, faster players into that offense, and you still have Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and ideally Trent Williams at left tackle to help Brock Purdy out. And I know the big storyline this offseason is, well, now Brock Purdy's got to prove that he's a really good quarterback because he's getting paid over $50 million. The second he was the starting quarterback of the 49ers, the expectations were that he was going to lead them to the Super Bowl and win it. And he led them to the NFC Championship game twice, led them to a Super Bowl. I don't think the expectations change at all because Brock got paid. So you're back to your original question. Are they a Super Bowl team? Until proven otherwise, yes, but they also have to show that they can stop somebody defensively. And I'd say it's a lot more optimistic than it was a couple months ago when I think just the quantity of guys that left, not necessarily the quality, but the quantity and how big of a new team it's going to be. I mean, you basically have half of a new team right now, and it's how fast are those guys going to be able to gel?
Yeah, and there is, I mean, to your point, there's a lot. If I had to bet,
don't bet.
And this is probably...
Is this a betting promo?
This is not a betting promo.
Okay.
This is not an ad. Promo code CAM.
Hey, there you go.
I think the odds are probably not in favor of this, but I actually think there's a good chance Robert Saleh becomes a head coach again. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he probably should have been a head coach again this time around. It just didn't work out. I mean, I thought Jacksonville would be a great fit for him because I thought they really needed a better defensive mind while Trevor Lawrence, handles the offense and under whatever sharp coordinator. I think he's a great head coach. He went to an organization that just is forever doomed with the Jets. So I don't think that's like, oh, well, if he couldn't make it with the Jets, he's not going to make it anywhere, right? If you make it with the Jets, you can make it anywhere. But hey, what are we, like 5 months in the offseason? So we'll be able to see Robert Saleh on the field in OTAs for the first time, working with the vets and the rookies. But just seeing him briefly at it, like rookie mini camp, just the aura, the saunter, the confidence, I don't want to say swagger, but there's this confidence that he brings onto the field that is head coaching confidence.
Yeah.
Go back 9 years, 8 years, whatever, when he first came out there as a first-time defensive coordinator, and he's trying to match wits in practice with Shanahan, and he calls a timeout or something, and Shanahan's like, "You can't call a timeout as a defensive coordinator. I'm going to penalize you." It was just kind of funny stuff that he was young, and he's just like kind of learning what it's like to be a coordinator. Now we know what he's going to be like as a coordinator. We just don't know what kind of defense he's going to have to work with. It's going to be a lot of young guys making some growing pains here and there. And at the same time, I think everybody's expecting this rookie class to all of a sudden be all pros right away. And
Right.
I don't know. I need to see a lot in the next 2 months or 3 months that they're going to be ready to play. I think Michael Williams is going to be like a day one starter. I don't know about Nick Martin at linebacker. I don't know about Upton Stout at nickelback. There are some other guys, obviously, at defensive tackle, but they're going to have to prove that they're better than the Jordan Elliott's and Kevin Gibbons of the world, which probably they will be, but are they going to be from day one? I don't know. So but we're all assuming that, these guys are going to be amazing. They're going to be like the Rams rebuilt a couple years ago. They have a great defensive front. They'll win the NFC West, go to the playoffs, win the Super Bowl, all be good again. So Salah's got a lot to do to kind of get those guys back on page, but he's got Fred Warner, who's been repaid, and he's got Nick Bosa. And so anytime you have those two guys, it really helps out your defensive coordinator.
Yeah. The other part of that, I think, because in a bubble, it's fine if Alfred Collins isn't ready to start right away. No big deal. Like, that's generally not, most of your draft class is not ready to contribute week one. I would even add, Cam, like, now Malik Mustafa's hurt, but guys who contributed last year maybe now step into a bigger role. Mustafa's would be at the top of that list, but Renardo Green would probably be the best example then, since Mustafa's hurt. It's like what he did last year was, if Alfred Collins did his version of Renardo Green this year, that'd be great. But Renardo Green's expectations just grew now. Now his role grows, his requirements grow. And I still think like what they did year one with that draft class last year was really impressive. But the final chapter on the 2024 draft class is far from written. And I also think there's a question about, can those guys take the next step?
Absolutely. And there's so much attention on the offense, but on the defense, it's like, yeah, you're right. Renardo Green stepping in, Charvarius Ward, but he started, I think, 7 games last year. Mustafa played pretty well because he got some really big time hits and he showed he could make some plays in coverage, but let's be honest, that defense was terrible last season. I mean, they got worse and worse as the season went on, stopping the run. So the first thing they got to do, whoever's in there, young or old, they have to prove they can stop the run. And they couldn't do that last year. And so that's why you rebuild your whole defensive front. Fred Warner, running around there, obviously not healthy last season after week 4. So yes, the young guys will get better, but I think everybody's expectations, they got to couch their expectations on these youngsters and how fast they're going to do. Then you start looking at the scheduling. All right, well, what playoff caliber offenses and quarterbacks are they facing? Not much. I mean, these guys have room to grow. So it's going to be fun to watch. I mean, week 1, Sam Darnold and Seahawks, right? They should know how to attack Sam, and then you're off to New Orleans and that whole specter of the Superdome before they get home for their first home game. I mean, I get excited just knowing what the schedule is and then kind of mapping it out, saying, they're going to have time to get going.
Yeah. Do you think have you seen a schedule like this in a quarter century covering the NFL?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but you know what? Like, I look at it more of, okay, look, some of these bad teams that they're on their schedule, they're going to be better. Okay. And then the Niners have to prove that they're better at themselves because they were not a very good team last year. That's kind of we make this assumption that they're going to be great again. Because I've been writing the schedule release every year, and I'm like, there's no like gauntlet or group of death that you got to watch out for here. Which is what's going to be the trap game, and it's like kind of like, you're telling me like a Falcons Sunday nighter is a trap game because it's a primetime game or something, or you got to go cross country to Tampa Bay after playing in LA or something like that. And I'm like, that's really not that intimidating compared to what this team has had to face. But you do have, I believe they have 5 10 a.m. games, which the Shanahan era, they've done pretty well in the 10 a.m. games, but they've also balanced it sometimes with layovers by staying on the East Coast. And I don't see them doing that this season. But the schedule does look darn nice for the 49ers.
All right, I want to talk. You've done you've written a few articles over at the Mercury News that are great, like primers for this time of year, and are also big picture, like things that I think when you go to week 1 of the season or a couple weeks before the season, like this stuff will hold up. And now you're right. You got defensive line rotation. This is your watch list.
Ooh, that's a pretty good graphic. That's nice.
Robert Saleh, we mentioned him. I number 3, focus on McCaffrey's backups as receiving options and pass. We know you can't get on the field for Kyle Shanahan without pass protection. What would be your level? Because I would say mine, it's not level of concern, but I do think one of the biggest, maybe the biggest question for all of this other stuff about who's linebacker 2, offensive, is Christian McCaffrey.
That's right.
What is he back to? He's back on the field, but what is he back to?
That's right. That's right. And I mean, he's going to go through a life change by becoming a father in the next couple of months, right? So, and obviously that's a great thing. So hopefully everything works out well with that. But health-wise, he says he's back. Everything's good. And in these times, okay, spring practices, we can't judge running backs other than how well they catch the ball, and maybe because they're not allowed to hit. Nobody's allowed to tackle them. So they're not allowed to go full speed. So, but at the same time, I want to see, like, does Isaac Guerrero look more comfortable in this offense? Because he got a lot of action at the end of last season, right? But I don't want to see Guerrero. I want to see McCaffrey. I want to see McCaffrey going full speed because we're in OTAs now. And he said that was his goal at the end of last season, was that he was not going to be missing OTAs. He announced this week that he's going to be hosting a bunch of youth camps throughout Central Valley and San Francisco and Sacramento. So that's great. So apparently he's going to be community involvement, but that means he's also just not locked away somewhere like overtraining. I want to make sure that the Niners have this guy because they're a whole different team when he is healthy, when his versatility, his playmaking ability. And I think most of all, his ability to cross the goal line. I mean, the guy was just a touchdown machine when he joined the Niners, and, he matched that NFL record by scoring in, 13 straight games, if I'm not correct and mistaken, correct, whatever. And I just think he is a dynamic force that they obviously need. Brock is a better quarterback than when he was when McCaffrey first came aboard, right? Because McCaffrey was there when Brock was stepping in the lineup, but they obviously need him to be a top-tier team again.
I put it at the top of my, because we saw last year. You mentioned the red zone.
You're right.
It's at the top of my list. And then it also feeds into your thing about who are the other guys? And there are questions that Isaac Guerrero just can't answer until he's healthy. Be healthy for 2 months.
Well, that's a good, he can answer that. That's he's got to get through the off-season program healthy and make sure the hamstrings are good. I mean, this guy is a sprinter. He runs more upright than a lower level, like a Jordan James is going to be playing in that backfield. He's more of a lower physical guy. Whereas McCaffrey just is the Achilles issues really kind of, I think, surprised us last summer because he was saying coming out of training camp, I'm going to be fine. I'm playing week one. Week one comes, and an hour and a half before the game, he's scratched from the lineup, and then he's gone for 2 months. And I think that's, to be honest, if you look back at all of last season's doom and gloom, I don't think anything was more impactful to the team than losing McCaffrey those first 2 months. I mean, there was so much off-field drama, and thank goodness Ricky Pearsall survived a bullet. Charvarius Ward had personal tragedy. There were injuries with Aiyuk, Trent Williams later in the season. But losing McCaffrey, I think, really set the tone on what a terrible year it was.
God, you mentioned Aiyuk. Like we haven't. Actually, let's talk about receivers because that was number 6 on your list with Aiyuk rehabbing. What connections can Purdy build with other receivers? And you actually, in a separate article, which I encourage, this graphic does not do the article justice. So read the article.
Ooh,
But you compiled the stats of rookie production.
Yeah.
Ronnie Bell is covered up here, but 6 catches for him. Ricky Pearsall 31. Obviously, that number would have been higher if not for what you mentioned.
Yeah.
Jacob Cowing, though, last year just 4.
Yeah.
Danny Gray had 1 in 22. Juwan Jennings, of course, none. Aiyuk had 60. Debo had 57. Dante Pettis had 27 as a second rounder. Trent Taylor had 43. And this was this was in the context of Jordan Watkins because of his speed and could he contribute? So then you added the 49ers depth chart. If all are healthy, might read Aiyuk, Jennings, Pearsall, DeMarcus Robinson, Jacob Cowing, Watkins, Trent Taylor, Russell Gage Jr., Tariq Owens, Isaiah Hodgins, Junior Bergen, and Isaiah Nair. Let's leave out for a second that you have my guy Isaiah Nair last on this list.
Isaiah, look, no, let's get to him real quick because everybody wants to know, but undrafted rookie, right? He is going to be like your Danny Gray in the OTAs and training camp. Go deep, young man. We're going to just run fast down the sideline. And we'll throw the ball to you. I mean, he's a fun project, but I mean, back to the whole depth chart thing. To me, Jordan Watkins is fascinating because I want to see, because this guy does not look like a raw rookie from just the glimpses that we saw. And obviously he played in the SEC, had a lot of production in college. I really want to see how he fits because he can leapfrog a lot of these guys and get into that mix with Aiyuk out and probably DeMarcus Robinson being suspended a few games. So, to be honest, these spring practices are really just like passing camp. So I want to see how he looks running his routes these next few practices that we get to see because he's very intriguing to me. Go back to that graphic. I liked your the graphic first. Yeah. So when I was doing this the other day, going through stats, basically everybody talks about how hard it is for a rookie to adapt to the Shanahan offense. And it's true. Any offense in the NFL, it's really hard to adapt to. And, you're going against pro cornerbacks and all this stuff. But I think essentially there's 3 categories here when it comes to rookie wide receivers. You got hits, okay? The Niners hits are Deebo Samuel, who had, I think, the second most receptions behind Jerry Rice as a rookie receiver, and Aiyuk, who was pretty much forced into the receiver mix as a rookie in 2020. And then it went to his head, and then he went in the doghouse in 2021 and emerged and became a 2-time 1,000-yard receiver before getting hurt. And then you got busts, okay? Your busts are Danny Gray, Dante Pettis, definitely Jalen Hurd, who was just like a mythical creature because he got 2 touchdowns against the Cowboys. And for 2 years, that's all anybody wanted to talk about was how great Jalen Hurd was. And he was a bum. And he got hurt. And he never played in the NFL. And then the third category is guys that contributed, that were helpers, that they're like, oh, okay, it did okay. A few catches here or there, punt returns here or there was like Trent Taylor, Richie James. Is Jacob Cowing forever going to be in that category too? Or is he going to step up and become a bigger threat? And history says no. But Ricky Pearsall is a guy that could be a definite hit because he showed signs of it last year. He's a very positive guy. I think he really loves playing football. He's very well liked in the locker room. And obviously the Niners have invested a lot in him. So the Juwan Jennings stats throw you off because he didn't do anything, right? He started the year on practice squad. And then right when he was about to kind of get called up, I believe, he tore his hamstring, went on IR his rookie year. So he didn't play as a rookie. And then he's ascended into almost a 1,000-yard receiver, but he's also going into a contract year. So what are the Niners going to do with him? Do they extend him? Are they going to let him play it out and try to strike it rich? There's a lot of drama with the 49ers wide receiver crew this season. And it goes beyond whether Brandon Aiyuk's going to be ready week 1. And I would say the reasonable expectations is they put him on PUP and save him, don't let him play for a month. But you know what? I think I really want to see how he's come along because I wouldn't rule him out being ready to go week 1. Jimmy Garoppolo came back week 1 after his ACL. Bosa was ready. Talanoa Hufanga, they kept on the opening day roster last year, and like he waited like 1 week or 1 or 2 weeks before they let him play. So don't dismiss it that he's not going to be ready week 1.
See, that's interesting. You say the drama of when he's going to return, but it almost feels like there's another drama of how do they handle him, and
better than
does
last.
Is a healthy Brandon Aiyuk? It's hard not to be worse. It's hard to be worse. Yeah. But is a healthy Brandon Aiyuk guaranteed to be on the team in 2026? Are they trying to get him healthy just to, trade him for 75 cents on the dollar next offseason? Like, can that be repaired? And can he be good enough to, if he's just a great player, then it's all water under the bridge, you would think. But
I mean, that these past 2 springs and summers, I guess, with his fate kind of in the air, that's way too drama filled. And I think this year's, fortunately, it didn't go too long, because once he was on the roster, I think April 1, then he was locked in with his money, because nobody was going to trade for him with the torn ACL. Could he be gone next year? Sure. I mean, it's the NFL. But I don't think they want him to leave. I mean, they invest a lot of money because they think he's a very good wide receiver, and he's the number 1 target for Brock Purdy when healthy. And I think people forget how great he was for those 2 years before he got paid. And having missed all of last year's offseason workouts and training camp, and then he didn't kind of get in the flow of that offense for those first 6-7 weeks. It was not a good look, but I still think he is definitely a number 1 caliber wide receiver that they're willing to pay, and they are going to be paying. So do they rush him back? They don't rush anybody back, but if you're able to come back, they're going to let you come back because they want to win from week 1. They don't want to just go, all right, we'll get to you in a month. If he's ready to go, they'll put him on the field, I would believe.
All right. Were you anything that needs to be said about Brock Purdy while you're here? What's your latest?
Yeah, here's the deal. So thank God we don't have to talk about money anymore. Okay. He got paid whatever he got paid. Boom, move along.
I have bad news, Cam.
He didn't get paid?
No, he got paid, but that topic's not going away.
Oh, baloney. You know what? That's fine. It's all about wins and losses at this point. Okay. If he wins, nobody's going to bring up the money. If he loses, they'll bring up the money. I don't think they're going to lose more than they win. So I think everybody will say, okay, that's a fair deal. I just think that, and Kittle, like last week, they had the Dwight Clark event that I was at in San Jose, and George brought up just how Brock is more vocal as a team spokesman. Well, that goes back the last year or 2. It's a natural progression. This is not something where he's realizing, oh, I'm getting paid, I better speak up. Go back over the last year and a half. Brock's always been very comfortable and self-aware that it's not all about him. But I think last year, was it before they played the Bears, he and Diamador Lenore were the ones that addressed the team on the Saturday night before the game.
Yeah.
Usually Bosa does speaking like that. Saleh used to do that. He used to tell great stories the night before the games on Saturdays. And then, so maybe he'll do that again. But Brock, he and Lenore did that and really inspired everybody before that Bears game. So I think that's part of the natural evolution of being a franchise quarterback. And he's not, I've seen so many different starting quarterbacks at the 49ers over 26 years. And some can be really grumpy. Some can be, jaded with the media. Some can be very insightful, humble. Brock is, there's a confidence about him, but there's not a cockiness, and there's a wanting to let you in a little bit to kind of explain things. I think that's all we really want as reporters, for people to teach us stuff. So basically we're middlemen to relay it to fans and explain it in a way where people can understand better. And so I think Brock does that, but he also understands his role of, okay, I am a spokesman and I need to put on a good face for the franchise. But he does it he doesn't seem bitter about it, and I don't think he will. I mean, he's already been through lows and highs and lows and highs.
Yeah.
So he's been through it. So did you want to get into the salary cap ramifications and really bore people some more?
Not really. No.
Good.
So your first year covering the Niners, was it 99 or 2000?
2000, Jerry Rice's final year. Steve Mariucci was a head coach. Jim Mora, defensive coordinator. I think Marty Morningweg was the offensive coordinator before Knapp took over the next year. But probably the best thing about those times, Guy, was we had free reign as media to stay at practice for like the 2 hours and watch the entirety of it because we didn't have social media and websites to go immediately post stuff to.
Yeah.
But that allowed me to learn the game better and to interact with the coaches and players a lot freer than we do now, where everything's really under lock and key. And so I think it's harder for like these people that are crashing the business right now to really grasp what is going on. So, I mean, I've covered the NFL for over a quarter century, and I can tell you, I don't know jack about what's going on. There is so much behind the scenes and X's and O's and internal issues that we are not kept abreast of. And a lot of people in our industry now try to pretend that they're experts in everything. We are not experts whatsoever. We can tell you what we see and hear, but we're seeing and hearing less and less than ever.
And then the accent, sometimes like generally you love Hard Knocks, or that was great about the mid-season one with the Giants. It's so apparent when you see something that you should not see, like, they left in that conversation about Saquon Barkley. That's crazy. You don't see that anymore, right?
Yeah. And Shanahan, this is his 9th year. He's a pretty transparent quote when he's at the podium. Off the podium, he's pretty buttoned up. He's not a guy that's going to just hang around and want to socialize with the media. He's got shit to do. And I respect that. I don't like the coaches that, talk secretly to certain reporters. I don't get that vibe from Kyle. I've never tried to just sidle up and be his buddy. I don't go to the NFL owners meetings so I can have a cocktail with them. I don't need that.
Red Bull vodka.
Red Bull. I believe it's blueberry Red Bull and vodka.
Oh, okay. See, look at you.
Well, I've never had one with him, but that's what sources tell me. So good for him. But so what were you saying? Just stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
It's interesting.
And you know what? The Niners have really tightened things up, I guess, under his watch, where beforehand there was so much leaks out of the building because it was such a disaster between there were fractions inside the building. Just like there were, go back 25 years when Mariucci was on his way out because Terry Donahue was the general manager and the Yorks were new to the ownership and they didn't know how to handle all of that. And I think the Yorks have found a really good system here with Kyle and John, and they let the business side work, whether it's Brian Hampton and Prague negotiating the contracts, and then John kind of is a front man for personnel decisions, and Kyle wants to coach ball and scheme up some offense. And, that's going to be interesting because Kyle's offense, I think the last couple of years has seemed a little stale and it hasn't really been exciting to watch. And I don't know if that's because he didn't have McCaffrey last year and Debo was getting older. But they need to get a better spark on offense to kind of catch up to help the defense out, especially this year because it's a lot younger.
Do you remember the 4 players that threw a pass for the 2049ers?
Oh, no. Jeff Garcia, Rick Meyer.
Yep.
Then they were not quarterbacks.
One of them was a quarterback and one of them was not.
Wait, was Arnez Battle one of them?
No, not in 2000.
Had one because he used to be a Notre Dame quarterback, I think, and then he played.
Oh, good call. The one guy who threw a pass would go on to play like 5, 6 more years for the 49ers. Tim Rattay. Yeah. What? And then Jerry Rice threw a pass, apparently.
Tim Rattay's aunt, I believe, was worked in Dublin, handled school buses or something like that, was in charge of that. So I liked Tim Rattay. Then he had I learned about the medical thing of a compression syndrome in a forearm where he had to have surgery. It was pretty scary. Yeah. Who was the 4th guy?
Jerry Rice.
Never heard of him.
All right. Cam
probably holds the record for most receptions and passes thrown.
He probably does. Wonder what that total number is. I can tell you. Let's see. The receptions is 1549.
He's probably thrown I think about 4 passes in his career.
He was 3 for 10 passing.
Okay. Well, he's batting 300.
He started his career. The tough part, he's incomplete on his last 4 attempts. So
here's a question: who's going to be the next person to throw a football that's not named Brock Purdy and not named Mac Jones? Because are you going to go Juwan Jennings?
I mean, that's no.
No. Give me Kyle Juszczyk.
Oh.
Yeah. I remember one play they worked on years ago where they pitched the ball to him on the right, and then he like pulled up and threw it like kind of a jump pass. I can see them putting that back in. That's a little flair.
I'm trying to think if there's somebody.
You know what they need to do more of, Guy? Okay, this is for my Australian fans out there. They need to get more into the rugby league style of more laterals. Just get more trickery going, and because those are familiar with rugby league in Australia know that state of origin was last night or early this morning, and New South Wales won. So it's a fun sport to watch.
I'm not familiar at all.
Jared Hayne played in rugby league, and that's when I learned about it. I learned about
the Aussie muffed it.
Yes, he did. Well, there's a lot more issues with that guy.
I know. That's why I made a face when you brought him up.
When you have guys hitting the heck out of each other with no pads and nobody's they're not necessarily taking headshots. It's a cool way to watch a contact sport. McCaffrey's one that's going to have the ball in his hand the most, so you could probably just guess with him.
Yeah, but if you're going to give it to Christian, just let him keep it.
You know what's fun?
You're going with juice.
Here's a little behind the scenes. Every Niner practice for the last couple of years, as kind of guys start going through position drills or stretching, usually special teams period, Shanahan is in between the fields, and if he's not playing catch with John Lynch, he's hanging out with Deebo Samuel, Aiyuk, and Jennings.
Yes.
And Jennings loves to throw the ball in warm-ups like that. Just he'll uncork some wild throws. So I don't know who Kyle's going to hang out with during the start of practice now.